It's Teacher Gail. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me for video 2. The last video was called Before Our Beginning, where we talked pretty much about things that happened before man was created. Now this video is called The Beginning, where we're going to talk about briefly the creation of all things, the creation of mankind. The word God in Hebrew is ruach, which means wind or breath. So we're going to talk about God, our ruach, how he created all things with just the sound of his voice, the word that we know today as Jesus. So before we dive into that, I want to tell you guys just a little bit about me and my background. Grew up number 10 of 12 children. I already let you guys know that I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. And our parents my mom was strict. She made sure that we had everything that we needed, though, as far as food, clothing. She made sure that we had, and my parents, my mom and my pop, made sure that we had a roof over our head. We had a house that was big enough where we weren't cramped. I wouldn't say we were not wealthy, because we were from a neighborhood where when everybody have just what they need, they don't really care about a whole lot of extra stuff. Well, we all had what we need. And because the neighborhood was closely knit, if any of the neighbors needed anything, if they needed a cup of sugar, if they needed eggs, if they needed anything, then they could send to our house for whatever they needed. And the same thing vice versa, though we rarely ran out of anything. Because there was 12 of us, my mom kept us very stocked with food. And she made sure that we ate healthy. We had veggies. We made sure we had plenty of vegetables. We would have fruit. But during Christmas time, I remember that instead of hanging stockings for us and putting little toys in that, when my parents bought toys, they would often put fruit and vegetables in those toys. We would have apples, oranges, bananas, and nuts, and just healthy things that we could eat. They weren't filled with candy and those type things. Those were the good old days. And I just remember my parents making sure that we had everything that we needed to survive. Well, the beginning, Genesis chapter 1, tells us about our Father, our Heavenly Father, who prepared everything that man would ever need to survive before he created mankind. It is amazing that we serve a God who did so much for us before he created us, but yet we forget that he's still the same God. He's our Ruach, he's our Father. He is the same God yesterday, today, and forever, and he still provides for us. In the beginning, he gave us everything that we need in an organized, orderly manner. If you go back to Genesis chapter 1 and you dig deeply into the way things were created, we will see day 1, he gave us light so that we may see. And he separated the light from the darkness. He called the light day and he called the darkness night. So we had a time in which we could operate during the day and the time in which we would sleep, which is at night. And then day 2, he put the firmaments in the sky. The firmaments are the heavenly areas that includes your clouds, your planets, and those things. As we study the Bible deeply, you will know that there are 3 heavens. Where we live on earth, the atmosphere that we breathe is called heaven number 1. But then in the heavens where the stars are, where the sun and the moon and the clouds dwell. That is the second heaven. But where God himself dwells is the third heaven. So we don't hear a lot about how God created that third heaven or what actually happens in that third heaven until Jesus comes in the New Testament. And Jesus tells us about the kingdom of heaven. He gives us a lot of parables about what happens in the kingdom of heaven. And so we'll learn about that later. And so day 2, we have the firmaments, which is the sky, and it's called the heaven. And we know now that it's the second heaven. But as you read further, we hear where Paul talks about actually taking a visit to the third heavens. And he said that he knew a man that went to the third heaven, and that is where God exists. I remember hearing a pastor from Louisiana. His name is Pastor Jesse Duplantis. So basically he has actually a video where he's describing his experiences in heaven. And then there's this movie, Heaven is for Real, where this young boy went to heaven. And these are the third heavens. In 2 Corinthians 12:2 is where Paul explains his experience with heaven, going to heaven. He says that heaven is called paradise. And in Luke chapter 23, verse 43, on the cross, when the thief asked Jesus if he would remember him when he gets to his kingdom, Jesus turns to the thief and says, "Today you will be with me in paradise." In Revelations 2:7, there is also a description basically saying that the tree of life sits in the middle of paradise. So as we delve into the rest of God's creation, we know that there is a third heaven where paradise exists. That to me is it. Let's get to day 3. In day 3, we know that the sun, the moon, and the stars were created. And then day 4, we see where God begins to separate the waters from the land. He gives us a place to live. He separates the waters from the land, and then he begins to speak into existence the grass, the herbs, the fruits, and the vegetables. You see those healthy things that we need? They are given to us first. Those are things that will, our body being made or created from dirt will need, because those things come from dirt as well. And they will have the vitamins and the nutrients that we have because, hey, we came from the same place. And so those fruit and vegetables were created first, and they are critical for good health. And then we see the next creation will be God speaks to the waters. And the waters bring forth creatures, fish, those other healthy things that we will need to survive. And then he speaks the birds and those flying creatures into existence. So now we have our chicken, even though they don't fly, they're on the ground, but that's a bird. So we have our fish and we have our chicken. And you notice the organizational pattern where God here is sequential in creating those things that we need. And so then after that, we have the birds, the final thing, and that's the best thing. The cattle, those animals that walk on 4 legs. You have your steak, you have your lamb chops, you have your pigs, those things being spoken into existence, where you have your barbecue, your ribs, and those type things. So those things were created last but not least. And I think that, yes, we do need protein, but those things taste so much better. Oh my goodness, those are good things. That meat, oh. And that's only if you like meat. Now, we have vegans, people who don't like meat. Then the fruits and vegetables, that's it for you. Oh, hey, I don't knock you. But I love a steak. Oh, a nice medium well T-bone. Whew, that's right up my alley right there. So, day 6, God creates those things. And finally, in day 6, God creates man. So after he creates everything that we would ever need, and even things that we would want, then he created man. And he told man to be fruitful and to multiply. But mind you, he's only created Adam. And God in Genesis 1:27 tells us that Adam was created both male and female. So even though he's a man, the essence of the woman is within him. So the first pregnant person was not a woman. The first pregnant person was truly a man, because he was pregnant with the essence of the woman within him. And so God created man pregnant with the woman. And so, men, while you out there saying, oh, I don't need no woman. Oh, yeah. You were created with us, embedded within you. And so that's why it is good to know that when God said it is not good for man to be alone, that is really and truly what he meant. God didn't create us to be alone. He didn't create man to be alone. He created man with the essence of the woman within him. Okay? And so God gave us everything God gave Adam everything he would ever need on a silver platter. Adam was spoiled before he was even created. But we just need to know that the success of man would not be complete without the presence of the woman. And people, professional athletes, billionaires, men who are filthy rich, can all share the same sentiments that I'm about to just share with you. It's okay to be successful. It's great to be successful. But it's a horrible thing not to have anybody to share that success with. And so God saw that man was alone. And God said it is not good for man to be alone. So God did that first C-section. He did the first operation. He opened man up and he took that real bone out of man and he created the first woman. And her name was Eve. But now mind you, before all of this was done with Eve, God had told man to take dominion, to subdue the earth. Why did God tell man to subdue? Well, the definition of subdue means to take control of something and by force. Why did God mean for man to do that? Because God knew that Satan was a jealous hater watching the creation of all things. God knew that Satan would probably try to intervene in the livelihood of man. And this was a forewarning to man. Be obedient. Take dominion. Take control over the situation before Satan does. Thank you for joining me in video 2. Please join me in video 3. From God Heals the Hurt Ministries, I'm Teacher Gail. Thank you so much. And I can't say thank you enough for hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. And I will see you at the next video. Have a blessed rest of your week.